So maybe you can start prepping us with some of the sections. What is going to be the first section that we see?
We're going to see the Jab Malassi as the first section. Interestingly, this is the choreographed part.
All right.
Marcia Child's dance group. And what they are doing is they are giving us a taste of and a feel of the whole bringing in a dance that is reminiscent of time past.
Well, we're certainly getting that French tradition, the ballet dance, the ballet skirt, the large head wraps.
Keeping in mind that everything is in gold, copper, and bronze, that is precisely what is happening.
And also understanding that the tradition of carnival comes out of that French tradition and that whole French costuming that we're seeing right now that became creolized to include the African elements of it. So this is what we're seeing here. Very reminiscent of the Beth Village tradition as well.
Quite so. So they are enjoying their dance to the song of the old-time band, the long-time band. This band was about 1,100 strong when we started off today, but of course, based on the hour and the time of day, we are not quite as strong as that number. But I think we will still give a very strong presentation.
It started very strongly already. We're seeing the capturing or the synchronization of the French culture with the African culture, giving us what we would know in our tradition, in our folk tradition, as the ballet tradition.
Yes. So this is the celebration of the carnival and the masquerade that has been a part of our culture for more than 100 years. But in keeping with Brian's social statement, there is drama that follows this.
And by now you've recognized the background music is David Rudder, the longtime band. One of his very, very, very well-known songs that captures the essence of the long-time carnival, the Jamet tradition. We saw Pre-Canal bringing that back into the carnival this year with their presentation of Jamet. And the long-time band has all the characters. The Jamet, the Bajon, you know, everybody was in that band.
And we've tried to cover the full gamut of them in this band. Interestingly, I think Pre-Canal's presentation, I haven't seen it myself, but from what I have heard, they do cover a sort of a historic perspective of what Carnival in Trinidad was about and how it came about.
Certainly, and for those of you who may not know, the Jamet Carnival, as it was called then, it was the French who actually, looking on, felt that the Africans, the freed Africans, were dominating the carnival and bringing a kind of what they called a Jamet type, a Jamet style, a lower class type of behavior. So at that time, you felt the colonials and the Creoles pulled out, and they started to call this the Jamet Carnival. So it's always about history, although it's entertaining. So we're enjoying this dance as we get ready for the drama to unfold with Farlane's 2010 presentation, Resurrection the Mask.
Interestingly enough, with this Jamet Carnival, there was always the element of the slaves doing a depiction of the life's experiences that they were being controlled under. I guess the Jamet came from the fact that they would depict their slave masters and so on, and the French colonials in a manner that was not complimentary.
Definitely.
And now in comes the Jab Malassi, the devil, sort of putting his stamp and his control on the entire carnival. And you can see the dancers, as they move away, try to avoid being dominated and being controlled in fear and confusion. The Jab Malassi was a character that was covered in molasses and would portray the mass on the street, approaching people with a sort of a threat of touching them or covering them in the soot and the molasses in which they were portraying. People would do what they could to avoid being touched, and it became a very dramatic play between the viewer and the performer. And in comes the character, the Big Jab. And pulling in what we call a Trojan hand. The hand of mankind at present. A hand clenched, unopened to being considerate, being aware of what's happening in the world in a negative state. And this is where Brian begins to make his statement. This is what we have become. People who are closed-minded, closed emotionally, closed spiritually. And everything builds to a feverish pitch. And you see Labantil rhythm coming in, raised bass drums, and the rhythm section, bringing the live element of the rhythm into the carnival. And the hand begins to open. And as it opens, everything goes silent. And what we see is the stigmata, a symbol of the suffering of the Christ. Brian's statement that we need to be aware of this element within the mass, still in all. Remember our humanity, remember our spirituality. And here comes a consecration of the space. And the dove of peace and of love coming out to give us a rebirth, to open our spirits and our hearts, and to reveal the power of love. And now we all can rejoice and give praise. And you recognize the song High Mass by David Brother. And everyone rises in a harmony and a cohesion and in an enjoyment of what shall be presented in Resurrection the Mass. We have come together. We are touched by the Spirit.
So the costumes we're looking at, were these sections or are these just done specially for this ceremonial presentation?
There are some featured costumes here just done for this ceremonial presentation. The dancers were a part of the band. Again, as you mentioned, bringing in the old colonial element, the French. And as the dove leads everyone off, the celebration can take place in earnest. The rhythm section has joined in the rhythm. The dancers move forward. The Jab Malassi also seem to be a lot more involved in enjoying the mass.